Long before the night I almost died, life had already been weighing heavy on me. I'm Luca Moretti, 22, heir to the Moretti Hotel Group, 14 properties across Europe and the US, a name that means something in glossy magazines, and blood-stained family trust meetings. I'd just wrapped up a semester abroad in Milan. Not that it was much of a semester, more like wine-soaked weekends in Lake Como, curated Instagram posts, and weekly check-ins from my overpaid handler. But I was exhausted. Not physically, but from pretending. Pretending I cared about the business. Pretending I didn't know half my family was waiting for my father to die so they could pick apart the empire. My flight back to Miami landed just after midnight. The air was thick with humidity and jet fumes, and the arrivals curb looked like a car commercial in hell. Escalades, Lexuses, Teslas, all of them idling. I was supposed to have a driver, Thomas, a family employee for 15 years. But he wasn't answering his phone and my battery was at 3%. That's when I saw it. A black Escalade, Moretti, printed in all caps, on a paper taped inside the windshield. The letters were crooked, sloppy. I should have walked away, but I was tired. My luggage dragged behind me like dead weight. The driver, a thin guy with sunken cheeks and a spiderweb tattoo curling around, his neck nodded at me, said nothing, just hit the trunk release. I slid into the back seat. The smell hit me first, cheap cologne over sweat and something chemical. Then the click. Child locks, engaging. He turned around slowly, like he'd been waiting all night for this, smiling, teeth yellow and uneven. "Welcome to your last ride, Princeling." And before I could even speak, the world tilted. I lunged for my phone, but he already had a pistol in his hand. The window shattered behind me, a warning shot that burned my eardrums. The phone flew out of my hand and landed somewhere under the seat. He pulled a roll of duct tape from the center console and began wrapping it tight around my mouth, the adhesive ripping skin as he yanked it. Zip ties followed, one for each wrist, cinched tight. My breath came in rapid, useless gasps. My heart wasn't just pounding, it was screaming. The SUV merged into traffic like it had somewhere important to be. We hit I-95 northbound, the lights of the airport vanishing behind us. 10 minutes in, the trunk popped open from the inside. Another man crawled through, beefier, unshaven, eyes twitching like he was high on something hard. He climbed into the back beside me and pulled out a rag soaked in something sickly sweet, chloroform maybe, or worse. I twisted, kicked, tried to break free, but the ties were too tight. My wrists were already bleeding. He pressed the rag to my face and the world softened into black. When I came to, the SUV had stopped. We were deep, in the Everglades. All I could see were crooked trees and the glint of water in the moonlight. They hauled me out like cargo, dragging my half-conscious body across mud and roots. My shoes came off somewhere along the way. Then I saw it. A shallow hole in a forgotten Baptist cemetery. The gravestones were so old they barely had names left on them. A tarp was laid out. They dropped me on it like trash. One of them snarled, "You'll be missed, Luca," but not enough. The other checked his phone, pacing. Why hasn't the old man called? They were supposed to send the ransom already. The first one paused, looking at me like I wasn't even human. Screw it, bury him. He's just leverage now. And then the shoveling began. The sound of dirt hitting plastic is something I'll never forget. Each shovelful felt like a countdown. My mouth screamed, beneath the tape, but it came out muffled, pathetic. The tarp trapped the heat. Sweat dripped into my eyes as I fought against the zip ties, my wrist shredded and raw. "You think the kid's awake?" one of them said, laughing. "Let him panic. Won't make a difference in a few minutes." They argued some more. Money, timing, some plan B. And I caught one name through the ringing in my ears. Uncle Vincenzo. My uncle. My father's only brother. He'd been cut out of the European holdings last year. Had screamed in court, sworn revenge. My father had said he was harmless. Guess not. Then, headlights. A police cruiser. The kidnappers froze. Shit. They're sweeping the area. They bolted. One dropped the shovel. The other kicked dirt over me in a panic and ran after him. The cruiser rolled slowly past, sweeping its spotlight across the cemetery. It didn't stop. They missed me. Buried alive. Left. Behind, rain started, light at first, then harder. Water soaked the tarp and softened the dirt. I don't know how long I laid there, I just remember the pressure on my chest easing slightly. The dirt gave way. I wriggled, twisted, chewed through the tape until my gums bled. My right hand slipped, free. I clawed through the wet soil, coughing up mud, and then I was out. Face down in the grass, body trembling. My suit was ruined, my skin torn and blistered, but I was alive. I stumbled toward the road like a ghost. A trucker nearly hit me. He slammed the brakes and ran over, phone in hand. I collapsed. The last thing I saw was the red and blue lights reflecting off the puddles. I woke up in a hospital, 2 counties over, IV in my arm, oxygen in my nose. An officer stood by the door. My father arrived hours later. He didn't hug me, didn't cry, just looked at me like I'd broken some unspoken rule. The kidnappers were caught, he said, trying to flee to Cancun with your trust fund money. I asked the question I already knew the answer to. Was it Vincenzo? He didn't flinch. Didn't nod either. We're handling it. That was it. They paid the ransom. But not to save me, just to end the story, to contain the scandal. Lawyers sealed the case, no press, no trial. For your protection, they said. I returned home 2 weeks later with a private security detail and a panic button clipped to my belt. Tomas, the real driver, had been paid off and vanished. No trace, no justice. At family dinners, Vincenzo still had a seat, still smiled that same oily smile. I watched him drink the wine, kiss my father's ring, joke with the staff. I said nothing. My therapists, there were 3, called it survivor's silence. I called it self-preservation. It's been 8 months. I don't ride Ubers anymore. Not without checking the license plate, the driver's name, and sitting behind the passenger seat with a hand in my coat. I carry a panic button even in my own house. When it rains, I still taste dirt. My friends think I'm paranoid. They make jokes. Hey Luca, got a shovel in your carry-on? They don't get it. They never will. Sometimes I dream I'm back in that grave. I wake up gasping, clawing at my sheets. The worst part? No one in my family has ever said they were sorry. The Morettis are good at pretending, at burying things, secrets, scandals, sons, but I know the truth. They left me there, buried me. Only the rain saved me, and next time I might not be that lucky. People think fighters are fearless. They're wrong. We're just used to pain. I'm Marco Park, 23, half Korean, half Filipino, full-time screw-up. I fight in the back rooms of Manila's old industrial blocks, where the air smells like rust, the mats are blood-soaked, and the crowd bets faster than they breathe. I've been knocked out 5 times. I've broken my hand on someone's face twice. I don't fight for belts. I fight for money, cash in an envelope, small bills, usually damp with sweat. I used to say it was for my mother's hospital bills. That was the lie. The easy one. In truth, she's been dead for 3 years. Died on a Tuesday. It rained so hard the hearse got stuck in the cemetery. Mud. I wore a white barong with blood on the collar from a fight the night before. People whispered. But I don't remember the funeral. Not really. My brain won't let me. So I tell myself she's still alive. I walk into St. Agnes Medical once a week and hand a wad of bills to a nurse who doesn't exist. They humor me. Maybe they think I'm delusional, or maybe they're too tired to ask. My mom was everything. My dad, just a shadow, a memory with cigarette smoke for a face. He left when I was 8. Korea. That's all I know. So when the call came, it didn't feel real. Mr. Park, your father is dying. He wants to see you in Seoul. I was fresh out of a fight, left eye swollen, knuckles split. The man's voice on the phone was calm, rehearsed, too clean. I asked him who he was. His lawyer, he said. There's money in the estate. A lot. Funny. That's what made me say yes. I told myself it was for my mom, but my mom was dead. I just didn't want to admit I was still living for a ghost. I booked the flight that same night. Cash ticket. One way. Manila to Incheon. No checked bags, just a gym duffel with 3 shirts, 1 photo, and a half-empty bottle of rubbing alcohol for my bruises. I was bleeding from the mouth when they called my boarding group. I passed the time staring at the airport's flickering fluorescent lights, wondering what the hell I was doing. The flight was mostly empty. A red-eye. I took seat 12A, window. My hoodie smelled like iron and sweat. I closed my eyes, telling myself it was just a ride, just a visit. Then the man sat next to me. Tall, thin, Korean, wrinkled suit, clean fingernails. He smiled like someone who had read too many obituaries. His breath smelled like peppermint. "You're Marco," he said. I didn't answer. At cruising altitude, he leaned in, whispered it like a secret. "You'll die when you land." I laughed. Nervous, dry. I'd heard threats before. Backroom betters with knives, drunk men in alleys. But something about this guy, it wasn't a threat. It was a fact. He said it like it had already happened. "Excuse me?" I asked. He just stared at me, smile never fading. Then he turned back to his in-flight magazine like nothing happened. I spent the rest of the flight pretending to sleep. When we landed, I thought I'd imagined it. Lack of sleep. Concussion, maybe. The customs officer barely looked at my passport. I walked out into the arrival terminal at Incheon, the cleanest airport I'd ever seen. Bright floors, fast people, cold air. I hit the Starbucks near gate 15, trying to calm myself down. Ordered an iced Americano and waited for my ride if there even was one. That's when I saw him again. Same man, same wrinkled suit, sitting by the window sipping his drink. He raised his cup to me like a toast. "You don't remember, do you?" he said, grinning. "She's already gone." I froze, cup still in hand. My mouth tasted like battery acid. "What do you mean?" I asked. But he just sipped his drink and looked out the window, like I was a minor detail in someone else's nightmare. "She's gone," he repeated. "And you still think she needs saving. That's the worst part." I blinked. My vision doubled for a second. The edges of the terminal blurred. I was back in the hospital room, clutching my mother's hand, except this time she wasn't there. Just an empty bed and a nurse pulling the sheets too quickly. Just silence. "You're not real," I whispered. He stood, tossed his empty cup, brushed imaginary lint off his jacket. "I'm as real as the lie you live inside." He walked away. No bags, no gate, just vanished into the flow of people. I chased him, ran past kiosks, through security stairs, past glass walls and confused tourists. But he was gone. Disappeared into the cold soul air like smoke, and I was left shaking, heart beating through my ribs. No one came to meet me. No car, no lawyer, no father. The phone number? Disconnected. I checked my texts. Nothing. No. Voicemail. No lawyer. No Marco, where are you? It was a setup. But for what? I had nothing. Not even an address. So I wandered. Slept in the airport lounge that night. Security didn't care. I must have looked like a lost college kid or a tired backpacker. I watched planes take off and land, like maybe one of them had the answers. The next morning I stared into a bathroom mirror. My busted lip had healed wrong. My eye was still purple. But what scared me most wasn't my reflection. It was the flicker of something behind my eyes. A memory trying to crawl its way out of the grave I'd buried it in. Because I did remember. The funeral. The rain. The moment. I kissed my mother's forehead and told her I'd make things right. I just lied to myself for so long I forgot how real it all was. I didn't have a plan. I had instincts. And mine said to get out. I rode the AirX train toward Seoul Station. Packed, silent, everyone buried in their phones. I sat there, invisible, watching my reflection in the window like it was someone else's face. I searched the lawyer's number again. Gone. I Googled my father's name, at least what little I remembered. Park Jun-ho, Korean businessman. Dead, apparently. Died in 2019. 4 years ago. Same year my mom passed. Weird timing, even weirder. I found an obituary with a photo. It wasn't him. Not the man I remembered yelling in our kitchen. Not the guy who left. Just some stranger someone's messing with me. I checked into a cheap motel with cash. Used a fake name. Couldn't sleep. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. By morning, I'd convinced myself I imagined everything. Maybe I'd hit my head too. Many times, maybe I was cracked until someone slid a note under my door. No sound. No knock, just a scrap of paper. You left something behind. No name, no handwriting, just that one sentence. And underneath it, tucked into the fold, a photo of my mother. One I'd never seen. She was younger, in Seoul, smiling, holding a baby, holding me. I dropped the photo. My knees hit the floor. She'd never told me she'd been back to Korea. Never mentioned that apartment, that coat, that man standing in the background. It was the man from the plane. My father, my enemy, my ghost. None of it made sense. And maybe that was the point, because I was beginning to realize this wasn't just a scam. Someone wanted me to wake up. Someone wanted me to remember, and someone wanted me dead before I did. I didn't fly home. There was nothing to go back to. The Manila I left behind was a city of ghosts. My mother's shadow in every alley. My own fists bloody from fights that didn't matter. I thought Seoul would be different. A place to start over. Or at least to understand who I was. But the truth is messier than memory. The photo proved one thing. My mother lied too. She wasn't just a sick woman in a hospital bed. She had a life before me. A secret one. And my father wasn't just a man who left. He was something more dangerous. Something watching me. I stayed in Seoul for weeks. Following clues that led nowhere. Chasing shadows in subway stations. Every time I saw a man in a suit, my breath caught. Every time it rained, I thought about the funeral. I never saw the peppermint man again, but I feel him. In mirrors, in crowds, in dreams. And the worst part? I still go to hospitals. Still walk into lobbies with cash in hand. Still ask for room 407, even though I know it doesn't exist. The nurses look confused, some pity me. Some are afraid, but I can't stop because the lie, that she's still here, is softer than the truth. And I'd rather bleed for a ghost than heal in silence. They say flights end when wheels hit the ground, but mine never landed. I'm still stuck in that moment, seat 12A, beside a stranger who knew everything I tried to forget. And now, I can't tell what's worse, that I was lied to, or that I was willing to believe it. They say if you fall far enough, you stop noticing the ground. 3 years ago, I was guiding 747s through New York airspace. JFK Tower, top of my class, nerves like steel cable. Then came the near miss. 2 commuter jets nearly colliding because I froze up for 4 seconds. 4 seconds of silence. My hands shook for hours. I drank to stop the tremors. The drinking cost me my license, then my wife, then my dignity. Now I watch ghosts. I found the job listing on a classified site that crashed when I clicked apply. The title was too vague, the pay way too good. Overnight operations manager, no experience required. $45 an hour. In rural West Virginia, either a scam or a miracle. The airport, Blackwater Regional, was little more than a shack on cracked tarmac, half swallowed by the Appalachian forest. 4 flickering lights and a vending machine with nothing but Mountain Dew. The break room smelled like mildew and regret. James Whitaker met me with a smile that didn't quite touch his eyes. White hair, nicotine-stained fingers, and a voice that belonged in a pulpit. "You'll be alone most nights," he said. "We don't get many flights." He slid me a single brass key. It was still warm. I didn't ask questions. I should have. Didn't ask about the bloodstain in the brake, room carpet. Didn't ask why all the security cameras pointed at the tree line. Didn't ask about the shotgun behind the check-in desk. Just nodded like a man who needed the money. And I did. Every cent went to my daughter's treatment in Morgantown. I hadn't seen her in months. Her mother stopped letting me visit, said I smelled like whiskey and failure. The job was simple, he said. Lock up, listen to the radio, report anything unusual. There were rules, too, taped to the fridge like a goddamn college dorm. I laughed when I read them. That was night 1. By night 3, I stopped laughing. Night 1 passed in silence, just the hum of forest bugs and the occasional distant howl. I chalked it up to coyotes, or my nerves. By night 2, the vending machine started shorting out. Spit Mountain Dew all over the floor. I slipped, hit my elbow hard enough to bleed. The cut didn't stop bleeding until dawn. Then came night 3. It started with the knock at 1:47 p.m., just like the rules warned. A sharp, methodical tapping, 3 beats, pause, 3 more. I opened the security cam feed. Nothing, just trees swaying in the wind. But the knocking kept going. I walked to the door, shotgun slung low across my back. She stood there, blonde, soaking wet, dressed in denim and a windbreaker, makeup streaked, pale skin like porcelain dipped in rainwater. "Hi," she said. "My car broke down on Route 19. Can I come in?" Her voice was calm. Too calm. I took 1 step closer and saw her hands, wrinkled, pruned, like she'd been submerged too long. Her eyes, gray and clouded, locked on mine. I knew her, not just her face, her car. A 1987 Pontiac Fiero, same model my ex-wife used to drive before she vanished last year. No one ever found her. Not the car, not her body. Elizabeth smiled. "It's freezing out here, Ethan." She knew my name. I stumbled back, slammed the door, and threw the bolt. She didn't scream or beg. Just waited. I watched her on the camera feed. She stood there until 12:32 a.m., unmoving, then turned and walked into the trees. I checked for tire tracks. None. No rain. No car. Just wet footprints that stopped at the door and disappeared into dust. I reread the fridge rules 10 times that night. I didn't sleep. And I didn't open the door again, no matter what I heard scratching at the windows. By night 4, I kept the shotgun loaded and the lights dimmed. I'd already unplugged the vending machine and moved the employee chair, away from the carpet stain. It still bled something dark every night, like the floor was sweating. Then came Simon. 17 m. I dozed off at the desk when I heard wheels squeaking. Rubber on tile. I grabbed the radio. Static. Simon pushed his mop bucket across the terminal, humming a warped version of "I'll Fly Away." He wore coveralls soaked with something thick and black. No badge, no name tag, just Simon, written in Sharpie across the chest. I didn't remember hiring a janitor. I didn't remember anyone hiring a janitor. He didn't speak, didn't look at me. I watched him walk past the break room mirror. Nothing reflected, not a shadow, not a flicker. He cleaned in slow, patient circles. When the bucket sloshed, the liquid didn't shine, didn't move right, like oil or blood that had never dried. The rules said, Simon cleans from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. only. If you see him outside those hours, hide. At 2:59 a.m. he turned, looked straight at me and smiled. His teeth were jagged, wrong, like cracked piano keys. I didn't move. At exactly 3:00, he rolled his bucket out the side door and vanished into the woods. I ran to the mirror. My own reflection, stared back, pale and soaked in sweat. But written in condensation on the glass in reverse were the words, "You're cleaning next." I wiped it with my sleeve. It didn't smudge, just sank deeper. I didn't sleep again. Night 5. I didn't turn on the runway lights, didn't drink, didn't sit, just stood by the tower radio, shotgun across my lap, and waited. 15 a.m. The sound didn't come from the radio. It came from the sky, engines low and distant like thunder with rhythm. I ran outside. Cold air. Silence. Then I saw it. A plane descending over the treetops. No tower clearance, no beacon light, no engine whine. Just gliding, eerie and perfect. The tail number, N814BM. I checked the FAA log. That plane went down in 1994, crashed into a mountainside near Clarksburg. No survivors. The plane landed without noise. No dust. No bounce. Door opened. Passengers filed out. Single file, heads bowed, all in black. Faces hidden beneath wide-brim hats and long coats. Each held a suitcase. They walked past me like I wasn't there, like they'd done it before. They headed into the woods toward a path I didn't see until they took it. A child dropped a toy plane. I bent to pick it up. Burned into the plastic wing were the words, "Welcome home, Ethan." I dropped it. Took 2 steps back. The door to the plane stayed open. Inside, I saw myself, sitting in seat 17A, sleeping. I ran. Didn't stop until the vending machine caught fire behind me, hissing like it was breathing. It's my 6th night. I haven't eaten, haven't showered. My daughter's nurse stopped texting back. My bank account's been drained. I checked the payroll records. Every paycheck went to a closed account in my name. I never set it up. I found James's file, marked deceased, 2001. Same day his photo disappeared from the office wall. Then I found the logbook. My name, signed in fresh ink. Next Thursday. I haven't written it yet, but I will. I already know how this ends. The shotgun only has 1 shell left. I clean now. Simon left me the bucket. I hum, "I'll fly away" when I mop the blood that appears at 2:13 every night. Elizabeth knocks. The plane lands. They keep coming. And I keep staying, because some contracts don't end. Especially the ones written in blood. Especially the ones you don't remember signing. I never thought I'd cry in an airport bathroom. But there I was, Redmond International 2021, locked in a stall with my head against cold tile and my phone at 4% battery. My wife, Grace, had just texted, "Should we sell the crib?" That was her way of asking if we were broke, which we were. 2 weeks ago, my startup, Edgebox AI, a company that made predictive modeling software for healthcare systems, decided I was non-essential. Right before my paternity leave. No severance, no insurance, just a LinkedIn email from my CTO saying, "We're pivoting, nothing personal." Since then, I'd been spiraling, burned through $2,000 in rent and groceries, down to 3,000, maybe less. And now I was flying to Chicago for an interview I wasn't even sure I wanted. Coach seat, layover in Redmond, delayed 8 hours. The airport was a tomb. Half the lights flickered like they were mourning the 2019 travel season. A shuttered Starbucks, a vending machine taped with an out-of-order sign, and caution tape over every 3rd seat. Even the smell, antiseptic mixed with stale pretzels, smelled forgotten. I took a seat near gate B4, opened my email. The subject line hit like a punch. "We're moving forward with other candidates." My stomach twisted. Then, as if timed to ruin my night completely, the screen dimmed. Phone dead. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling tiles, trying to remember the last time I'd felt safe. Probably Grace's first ultrasound. Or maybe before that, before Edgebox. Before everything I built crumbled in a Slack message. And then the whisper came. "Mr. Cho." It echoed from the terminal speakers. Static. A voice too smooth, too calm. Not the usual gate agent tone. More like someone trying to sound human. I sat up fast. No one in sight. Except a janitor mopping near B4. Odd thing was, the bucket wasn't water. The liquid was dark, thick, almost like oil. And it left. A trail leading to the women's restroom. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. When I looked again, the janitor was gone. Just me, flickering lights and that trail of black on white tile. I tried to shake it off. Stress, sleep deprivation, maybe even guilt. I'd been carrying so much of it lately it felt like a second spine. Guilt for being laid off. Guilt for being halfway across the country while Grace struggled with swollen ankles and baby registries. Guilt that I wanted this job in Chicago, even though it would mean moving before the baby arrived. I found a bench near a shuttered Hudson News, hoping to charge my phone. Behind the kiosk, tucked under a half-broken counter, there was a forgotten outlet. I fished the cable from my backpack, plugged it in, and leaned back. That's when I felt it. A soft brush against my ankle. Cold, damp, like ice or maybe raw meat. I jerked my foot back, and there, under the kiosk, was a hand. Pale, fingers, too long, nails cracked and blackened. A faded blue airport security bracelet hung loosely around its wrist. The hand didn't grab me, it just reached, slowly, almost curiously. I scrambled back, knocking over my coffee cup and nearly tripping over the bench. By the time I got my bearings, the hand was gone. I crouched, looked under the kiosk. Nothing, not even dust. I wanted to leave. Every nerve in my body told me to walk out into the Oregon cold and never look back. But I couldn't. My ticket, my future, my dwindling savings, everything hinged on getting to Chicago. So I sat back down, tried not to think, tried not to look at the dark smudges on my shoes. Behind me, somewhere in the terminal, I heard the janitor's mop again. Except it didn't sound like water being pushed. It sounded like something being dragged. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember the lights. One blink, then another, then all of them flickering in rhythm like the terminal was breathing. I looked up, and something dropped from the ceiling. Not fell, crawled. A figure in a rotted flight attendant uniform. United Airlines. Her name tag read, Carla. Her body, twisted unnaturally as she moved, spine arched backward, one arm dragging behind like it was broken. Her jaw was unhinged, mouth hanging wide. Her eyes were milky and full of broken capillaries. Her neck, God, her neck was bent just like David Chen's. David was the CEO at Edgebox, the one who jumped from the rooftop after layoffs started. He'd said, "We're all just inventory," before he went over the edge. Now his broken posture mirrored hers. She crawled toward me, each limb stretching too far, too smoothly. "They all say no to you, don't they?" She hissed. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. She came closer. Then, the lights cut out, darkness, silence. When they came back on, she was gone, and I was sobbing. Bent over, trembling. My hands covered in blood, my wrists raw from scratching. A gate agent shook me awake, said my flight was boarding. My phone, somehow back in my pocket, buzzed. 17 missed calls from Grace, a battery that still read 4% despite being plugged in for hours, and a draft message I never wrote. "Tell the baby I'm sorry." As I walked down the jet bridge, I looked out toward the tarmac. There she was, the janitor. Same face, same eyes, but now her uniform was crisp. Her skin smooth, she stood straight and tall, she smiled and mouthed, "Next time." I didn't sit during the flight. I stared out the window the whole time, watching clouds that never seemed to end. The interview was a bust. They asked why I had bandages on my wrists, why I kept flinching, why I couldn't stop looking at the air vent in the corner of the room. Didn't have answers, and somehow my return flight got rerouted through Redmond. At home, Grace didn't say much. She just showed me the ultrasound. In every frame, just behind the baby, was a shadow. Tall, too thin, watching. That night, an email came. From Redmond Airport HR subject line. "We found your lost item at gate B4. Attached was a photo of my wedding ring, sitting in a mop bucket." Now, every airport announcement sounds like it's saying my name. My daughter smiles at empty corners, And my resume? Lists jobs at companies I've never heard of. But the real horror isn't what I saw. It's knowing I left something behind at Redmond, and something else followed me home. I was 8 years old the first time I got truly lost. Manila International Airport, Christmas Eve, 2003. The terminal was overflowing with people and noise. Tagalog announcements boomed from the intercom, while English translations crackled behind them. Everyone was going somewhere, but no one looked where they were going. The air was thick with heat, sweat, roasted peanuts, and duty-free perfume. I remember clinging to my dad's sleeve like it was the only solid thing in the world. My parents were fighting again. My mom wanted to stay in the Philippines to care for her sick father. My dad wanted us back in Michigan before New Year's. "You said 2 weeks," he snapped, pointing with his passport like it was proof. She answered in fast, angry Taglish. I didn't understand most of it, but I understood the tone. They forgot I existed for a minute. 1 minute, that's all. It took. Drawn by the glittering duty-free signs and shelves of candy, I let go. I wandered toward a kiosk with lollipops stacked like pyramids. I was sure they'd see me, turn, laugh, call me back. But they didn't. The crowd shifted. A woman bumped into me. I stepped to the side. Then they were gone, swallowed whole by the moving bodies. At first, I stayed put. Dad always said, "If you get lost, don't move." But time passed. 5 minutes. 10? I started walking, my throat tight. I called for them, but my voice disappeared in the noise. By the baggage claim, tears streaking down my face, I began to panic. Then I saw her, an old woman in a faded green blouse, squatting low to meet my eyes. "Nawawala ka ba, anak? Are you lost, child?" She smelled like menthol rub and something older, mothballs or dried leaves. Her skin was pale and thin, and her smile stretched wide. She reached for my hand. "Come, I'll take you to your mama." I didn't think. I just followed, because she said the right words, and I wanted to believe someone knew the way. She held my wrist instead of my hand. Her fingers were cold and bony, her grip gentle but not weak. As we walked, the air grew quieter. No more Christmas songs. No more suitcase wheels clattering on tile. Just the sound of her keys, or what I thought were keys, jingling in her purse. I tried to ask where we were going, but she only smiled. "Quiet now. You'll see." She turned left, away from the gates and into a hallway marked "Staff Only." I hesitated at the sign. "Is this the right way?" I whispered. Her grip tightened, just a little. "Your mama is waiting," she said. There were no people in the hallway, no flight crews, no janitors, just a flickering light and distant humming like a machine left on too long. She kept whispering, "Quiet now, quiet," even though there was no one around to hear. That's when I started to panic. My stomach flipped. The walls felt too close. I imagined Dad finding me later, mad, not worried. I imagined Mom crying. And then I looked at the woman's face again. Her smile was still there, but it didn't reach her eyes. They were flat, dark, like the surface of a well. "Where's my mom?" I said louder. She didn't answer. "Let go!" I pulled, but her hand tightened, squeezing the bones in my wrist. That's when I noticed the jingle in her purse wasn't keys. It was teeth. Tiny, dry, loose clicks. Not metal. Something else. Screamed. Loud. And that's when the hallway went colder than the air outside the terminal. I panicked. Pure animal fear took over. I bit her, hard, right on the back of her hand. I didn't know what I expected, maybe a shout or a slap, but what I got was silence, cold silence. The taste of copper flooded my mouth and she let go. She didn't scream, didn't flinch. She just looked at me with those dark, bottomless eyes like something ancient had just been woken. I ran like my life depended on it, like the walls would close in and crush me if I didn't. The hallway twisted in my vision, my legs weak but flying. I crashed into a baggage cart, then straight into a woman in a red flight attendant uniform. She grabbed me as I sobbed and pointed down the hallway. There was a woman, I gasped. But when I looked back, there was no one, just flickering lights and an empty hall. They paged my parents. My mother screamed when she saw me, pulled me into her arms like she was trying to reabsorb me. My dad yelled, "Never run off like that," while security explained that they'd found me near a restricted maintenance corridor. No one asked about the woman. Not really. I tried to tell them, but Dad said I must have imagined it, panicked, wandered, made up stories. Mom cried the whole flight home, but I remember her skin, her voice, the way she walked without making a sound, and I remember the dry rattle of her purse. That was not a dream. I'm 28 now. I haven't been back to the Philippines since that day. Not because I'm scared of the country, I'm scared of the airport. Any airport, really. I avoid them when I can. I drive across states rather than book a flight. When I can't avoid it, I carry strong mints and menthol balm in my bag to fight back panic attacks. Sometimes just the scent of it makes my hands shake. I told a therapist once. She said it was a childhood trauma reframed as supernatural. Maybe. I wish I believed that. I've Googled similar stories, urban legends, folklore. None fit. No one else mentions the keys that weren't keys. But she shows up sometimes. Still, in dreams. In the corner of my eye while I stand in line for boarding. Most recently, I flew to LA for work. The gate was crowded, loud. I tried to calm myself, breathe through it. Then I saw her. At gate 14, same green blouse, same hollow eyes. Her mouth opened. Nawawala ka ba? And she smiled. Wider than any human mouth should. I didn't scream. Didn't run. I just stood there frozen like that little boy who bit her hand and ran down a hallway 20 years ago. She didn't come toward me. Just stood still among the passengers like she belonged. No one noticed her. No one even looked. Then the gate agent called my name, and when I blinked, she was gone. I still have the scar on my wrist from her grip. Faint, white, crescent-shaped marks. My mom doesn't remember that day the way I do. She says I got turned, around in the crowd. My dad passed away 2 years ago, still believing I wandered off because I was stubborn. But I remember. She was real, and she waits. At gates, in corners, in every airport I pass through. And someday, when I'm too tired or too slow, she'll ask again, "Are you lost?" And this time, I might say yes.